More Republican lawmakers are voicing their concerns about Trump's remarks. Among them, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, who said this today.
He's the nominee, and we'll have to deal with that. I hope that he changes. It's uncomfortable not having endorsed the Republican nominee, I have to say. I don't think that there's time for a third-party candidate at this point. I think we have what we have, and we're not in a good situation. I mean, let's face it.
With me now, Carl Palladino, former New York gubernatorial candidate and a Donald Trump supporter. Welcome, Carl.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. You know, I'm just wondering, why does Mr. Trump keep doubling down on Judge Curiel? What's the purpose?
Well, answer the question for me as to why the press keeps doubling down on this Judge Curiel thing. The press has created this issue.
Because
Donald Trump
racist,
obviously wasn't
why.
happy. Well, it sounds racist because in your vernacular, okay, that's what you're trying to prove right now. One of your reporters kept pushing Newt Gingrich to call it a racist statement instead of an inflammatory statement. Yes,
Newt
it is
Gingrich
inflammatory.
said it was the biggest mistake Mr. Trump has made, and Newt Gingrich is a supporter of Donald Trump. Why would he say it's the worst mistake he's made?
That's right.
If
That's
it
right.
isn't racist.
But what is the trust? What is the press interested in doing right now? They've got their jockey shorts all bunched up. They're all excited over having an issue that they can pick apart in its most minute sense. They are wrong here. Eric Schneiderman went after Donald Trump. Okay, why did he do it? Because habitually, Eric Schneiderman has this thing about taking on the big banks. He knows the banks can't put up with lawsuits, so he extorts money out of them.
Well,
same thing here. He's trying to extort money out of Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Let me throw this at you, Carl, because you're accusing the AG of taking a case forward because of political reasons. But there are 4 judges in New York who says the AG has enough evidence to take the case against Trump to trial. And these judges' names are Angela Mazzarelli, Diane Renwick, David Sachs, Carla Moskowitz. So why isn't Trump maligning those judges as well and only the AG?
You know, as a member of the press, you can always get somebody to say, as you've done here, in going out and finding Mr. Flake and others, you can always get somebody to say what you want them to say. Okay? That's always going to be there. And Mr. Trump has that right, that First Amendment right, to say how he feels about a certain issue. He doesn't feel good about this issue. He doesn't like the idea. He's got a battery of lawyers and a bunch of letters from very happy people who used that Trump University. And now for you to come out and challenge that is all a matter of what? I'm sorry.
It's my job to challenge things. And Eric Erickson, he's a conservative blogger. He's an anti-Trump conservative. He does not like the media either. But he wrote this morning of Donald Trump and his continued attacks on Judge Curiel. Quote, so the party of Lincoln will entertain a racist as its leader in the name of winning? What good does it profit a party to win the White House and lose its soul? Because the odds are the party will not win the White House and will forfeit future victories as it sees Hispanic voters, black voters, and a solid number of evangelicals flee the party of racists. What would you say to Eric Erickson?
Eric Erickson just likes to use the term racist. He's not a racist. By far, he's not a racist. This is incredible that you want to pull this word out and use it because it always pushes back on the white guy. It's not fair, and it's not a fair description of Donald Trump. Donald Trump might have some anxiety about this particular judge because he lives in the same real world that I do, where this type of thing does go on, where the ethnicity means something. Okay, in a court case or someplace else. Why does Judge
Curiel's ethnicity mean something, and these 4 judges in New York, why don't their ethnicities mean something? Why doesn't Angela Mazzarelli's Italian heritage mean anything?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does in this world that we're in out here. Yeah, I mean, the press comes in with all this Holy Grail stuff. Okay, it doesn't work that way. This is the real world. And in the real world, you have considerations like that when you're looking at, why am I getting sued? Why all of a sudden did Eric Schneiderman go and pick me out?
Because Judge Curiel, who was born in Indiana, mind you, he was born in Indiana. He fought drug cartels in California as a federal prosecutor. If he's making his decision to go ahead and try this case against Trump based on his Mexican heritage, he could be disbarred. So Judge Curiel, in your mind, is willing to go down that road.
No, I'm not judging Judge Curiel. I'm describing what I believe is the state of mind of Donald Trump. Okay, and the state of mind of Donald Trump is that he is being persecuted here by a New York State Attorney General unfairly. And yes, he's looking at all four corners of the case to try to find, okay, and make a judgment as to what he should do in the future on this case.
Okay, well, let me ask you
every right to do that.
There was a terrible jobs report on Friday. It was really awful. Donald Trump had every opportunity to concentrate on that, but he continued his attacks on Judge Curiel instead.
You want to dictate what the news of the day is.
I'm just saying, did Donald Trump miss an opportunity there? Because what people really care about in this country,
that's the problem
and every poll shows
the press wants to identify. But the press constantly wants to identify what the issues of the day are. You don't have that right. He's the one that has to define what the issues of the day are, not the press. You don't have a right to do that.
Well,
but you've
Donald
been doing
Trump's
it for
tweeting
so
about
long,
the economy
you
right
think it's
now,
okay
so
to do it.
Apparently he thinks today is the day.
That's his entitlement. He could pick and choose when he wants to talk about an issue.
All right. Carl
Palladino, for the first time since he apologized for his controversial comments about President Obama and his wife. Palladino spoke this afternoon. Meantime, the Buffalo School Board is getting set to hold a special meeting about him, and the Education Department is using its strongest language yet. Here's 7 Eyewitness News reporter Hannah Bueller.
The hard part is when it comes to the family. You know, I have a 17-year-old daughter, and you know, the cutting remarks of kids, it's just terrible.
Carl Palladino is feeling the heat from the comments he made last week. He's upset that his family and business are getting dragged through the mud for what he claims was supposed to be a joke to a couple of friends. Now read by millions because he hit reply instead of forward when Art Voice sent him a 2017 wish list request. The prominent developer and Buffalo School Board member spoke to WBEN Wednesday night.
My son runs our family business. He's doing a great job at it. He's not political. He makes all the day-to-day decisions in that operation, and I'm very, very proud of him. But to have to put up with what he's encountered in the last few weeks, let alone the 550 employees that I employ, you know, many of them minorities who probably are getting it left, right, and upside down from the community. It's just not right.
It's been almost a week since Art Voice published Palladino's written desire for President Obama to contract mad cow disease and die, and First Lady Michelle Obama returned to being a man and live in the wild in Africa. Palladino insists he didn't mean to insult the black community.
I apologize for my words. I'll continue fighting for you.
Outrage has been growing by the day. The Buffalo School Board is holding a special meeting Thursday afternoon to discuss Palladino. A majority of the members set to support a resolution that would pressure the state education commissioner to remove him from his seat. The department says it is reviewing all of its options and will closely watch the actions taken by the Buffalo School Board. But Palladino remains defiant and unfazed.
It's sort of laughable that I would ever resign from that position over such nonsense as what's being put out there right now.
There will be a Can Carl rally tomorrow. It's in Niagara Square at 10:30 in the morning. It's organized by members of Push Buffalo. Meanwhile, I did speak with Carl Palladino tonight via text message. He tells me he's out of town and unable to attend tomorrow night's school board meeting. We're live in the newsroom. Hannah Bueller, 7 Eyewitness News.
I told Donald yesterday, this is Trump country in Buffalo, New York.
Before he became Donald Trump's New York campaign chair, Carl Palladino first gained national infamy for a different reason: his tendency to forward racist emails. You see, during his run for New York governor in 2010 against Andrew Cuomo, it was revealed that Palladino had forwarded friends and colleagues a number of lewd and offensive emails that include everything from racist jokes about President Obama and the First Lady to graphic images of bestial pornography. Not a phrase I often have occasion to say on the show. Which is why it was shocking but not necessarily surprising when, in response to a local paper's query about his expectations for 2017, Palladino inexplicably emailed back a series of misspelled racist, transphobic, and bestiality-themed jokes about the president and first lady. We'll quote some of them here. Obama catches mad cow disease after being caught having relations with a Hereford. He dies before his trial. Michelle Obama, I'd like her to return to being a male and let loose in the outback of Zimbabwe, where she lives comfortably in a cave with Maxie the gorilla. The paper later published those comments, which shocked the city of Buffalo, New York, where Palladino lives, and serves as a member of the school board. Palladino ultimately apologized, quote, to the minority community in a statement that also included a lengthy tirade about President Obama's Syria policy and teachers' contracts. Today, that school board met to vote on a resolution that called for Palladino's resignation.
I am standing today for all the children who have been harmed by this school board member's abhorrent behaviors and actions. This level of hatred for African Americans should not and cannot set policy for the education of African American children. Words matter, Mr. Palladino. I have heard, as has every board member, including you, from people all over the country who are incredulous that a sitting Board of Education member could demonstrate such a lack of responsible leadership for the children in our district. They would like me to tell you, you're fired.
In the end, the resolution passed 6 votes to 2 with raucous applause from the audience. Palladino now has 24 hours to resign before the school board implores the state education commissioner to fire him. One of the people who was in the audience for the vote was Huffington Post senior political reporter and politics managing editor Amanda Turkle, who joins me now. And Amanda, it looks like quite a scene in that room. What was it like?
It was pretty crazy. I mean, it was loud. They made clear that people couldn't bring in signs, and the school board chair had to keep reminding people that they weren't supposed to be shouting things out and saying that there's a national audience, make sure you make Buffalo look good. But people were pretty upset. There were a lot of reactions to what especially the two Palladino allies on the board were saying. One woman, Patty Pierce, who voted against the resolution, compared what was going on to the Charleston massacre and said that, like people in Charleston, the families of the victims forgave Dylan Roof. The people of Buffalo should try to do that with Carl Palladino. And that was too much for one woman who was actually sitting right in front of me, who started shouting that you just, it's a disgrace to bring up the victims of this horrible massacre in Charleston to sort of defend Carl Palladino or to say we should forgive him. And she left the room because of that.
Wait a second. The board member, in attempting to defend Carl Palladino, who has these sort of despicable comments about the president, the first lady, other people, in her defense of Carl Palladino, compared Carl Palladino to the racist mass murderer Dylan Roof.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, someone else in the audience pointed out, like, he went to jail. Is that who you're really comparing him to? But I mean, her point was that she was so moved by the victims' families, forgiveness in their words, that was how she came to also forgive Carl Palladino, who she considers a friend. But yes, there was that other side of the comparison that she was comparing Carl Palladino to Dylan Roof. Well,
there's also the fact that, I mean, I have to say, when this story, obviously Palladino is a figure I know, and we've covered him on the show, and ran for governor here. That I did not realize. I mean, when the story happened, I did not realize he's sitting on the Board of Education. I mean, these are powerful positions. That board presumably is essentially dictating a fair amount about what happens to Buffalo school children. And even before these emails came out, it was pretty clear what this guy's views were.
Yeah, and I mean, I went to a protest earlier in the day. There was, it's Buffalo, and it's December, so it's cold, and there was some snow. But a few hundred people showed up for a protest outside City Hall today, and I asked people, why now? I mean, Carl Palladino has been saying stuff like this for years. And a few people said that they're paying more attention now because of Trump, and he's a test case. They feel like that they have to be more active now that Trump was elected, and so they are trying to stand up and show that they're not going to take it from Carl Carl Palladino anymore, and he is on the school board, but I mean, he barely won his last election. He ran against a high school student who sort of ran saying, we need some adult leadership on the board, and we're not getting that right now. And Carl Palladino barely beat him in his own district. So Palladino has been losing support. The school board used to have more Palladino allies. Now he has just 2 people. So I feel like in this city, people are getting a little bit fed up of him, of sort of making the city look bad and giving the city bad publicity.
And it's interesting you mentioned Trump, because he, of course, was an early Trump backer. He was, I believe, has been in Trump Tower since the election and was the campaign co-chair. He is a sort of prominent Trump ally.
Yes, he is. Although his most recent comments to Art Voice were even too much for the Trump team, who issued, and a Trump spokeswoman issued a comment saying that they, found them distasteful, they didn't agree with them. So even too much for Trump, who has said many, many very Palladino-ish things.
Yeah, Amanda Turkle, senior political reporter and politics managing editor for the Huffington Post. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My friends, my family, my community, they'll all tell you, Carl Palladino is not a racist. To do what's right for the people, to straighten out our college education so that our kids can go to school instead of some damn Asians coming in here and going to school. I don't understand that. We give subsidized Asians to come here, okay, and we don't let our own kids get educated. Is that why we formed a state university system? I don't think so. Unfortunately, I put that Asian thing in there. I have no problem with Asians whatsoever. My comments were not directed solely at them. I just think my children and your children will be much better off and much more successful getting married and raising a family. And I don't want them to be brainwashed into thinking that homosexuality is an equally valid or successful option. Especially at a gay pride parade, and I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they wear these little Speedos and they grind against each other, and it's just a terrible thing. I'm not a homophobic. I have no reservations whatsoever about gays, only except for marriage.
Those who propose this mosque belong to a sect of Islam which requires all who don't subscribe to this religion be killed. Where in the hell did you get that?
You also forwarded a number of racially offensive emails. One of them used the N-word, and I'm just showing our viewers one that you said showed the rehearsal for President Obama's inauguration, which was basically images of I think some sort of tribal dance and I'm assuming in Africa. You've said in the past this is just humor, but I mean, I don't understand, why would you find that funny?
Quote, instead of handing out welfare checks, we'll teach people how to earn their check. We'll teach them personal hygiene, the personal things they don't get when they come from dysfunctional homes.
They slander me, okay, consistently by calling me a racist and by saying that I have conflicts of interest. It just so happens that the minority group is African American and they're women. My friends, my family, my community, they'll all tell you, Carl Palladino is not a racist.
Words matter, Mr. Palladino. Our president, the commander-in-chief of this nation for the last 8 years, Mrs. Obama, our First Lady, and Valerie Jarrett, Special Presidential Counsel, are all African Americans. Among other things, they are accomplished, intelligent, beautiful people. And that's not just my opinion. However, in the views you've expressed, they are reduced to depraved individuals, criminals, frauds, guerrillas, and more. The impact on children of color especially African American children, are incalculable. How do we encourage them to aspire to use their God-given talents to soar, to reach for the stars, when a sitting board member responsible for their education demonstrates such contempt of their role models? This contempt, or should I say, rises to, or should I say lowers to a level of unmitigated hateful, racist, and misogynistic rhetoric that can't be disassociated from these students' race and culture. Words matter, Mr. Palladino. As a sitting board member, you have amassed a record and established a pattern of behavior that is equally egregious and violates your oath of office and professional ethics as a Board of Education member. Words matter, Mr. Palladino. I have heard, as has every board member, including you, from people all over the country who are incredulous that a sitting Board of Education member could demonstrate such a lack of responsible leadership for the children in our district. They would like me to tell you, you're fired. But those are not my words. So I'm asking you to do the right thing and resign. I support this resolution. If there is no more commentary, I will call for a roll call vote.
Madam President, can we make sure that every statement is listed in the record properly?
This whole minutes for this entire meeting will be repeated or will be printed verbatim.
Thank you.
And recorded. Thank you. All right, may I call for a roll call vote? Mr. Kuzma.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to put this resolution to vote. This resolution requires 6 votes. It is a clean item. Mrs. Belton-Cotman.
Yes.
Dr. Harris-Tigg.
Yes.
Ms. J.
Yes.
Ms. McCosey.
Yes.
Mr. Palladino is absent. Ms. Pierce.
No.
Mr. Quinn. Ms. Woods. Ms. Woods. And President Evergold.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Motion to adjourn.